Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. There are a lot of people who are knee-deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it.
Dan, Cash, and Pam currently all might want us to let it go really badly right about now, but that was Dan Bongino back in 2023 telling us absolutely under no circumstances should we, the people, let this Jeffrey Epstein thing go. And thankfully, when it comes to we the people, we aren't letting it go. This story has continued to stay trending on virtually every social media platform I'm currently on, and more news continues to break, including breaking news happening literally minutes ago, 8 minutes before I pushed record right now. A big story is coming out where the DOJ is now officially backpedaling on the closed case of Jeffrey Epstein, and it all has to do with a wonderful FOIA request. Stay tuned because I'm about to cover that right here on American Advocates. All right, this is just in from Judicial Watch. Justice Department reports to court it is reviewing FBI DOJ Epstein records for possible release. Judicial Watch announced it filed a joint status report on July 7th in federal court reporting that the Justice Department and the FBI continue to search for and review records in response to Judicial Watch's Freedom of Information Act lawsuit for records regarding Jeffrey Epstein. Because here's the thing, if the case is closed, then FOIA requests are perfectly acceptable and they should have no problem turning over everything that they have, especially if, in the words of Pam Bondi herself, it's a giant nothing burger. They're obviously never going to release the CSAM material. And nobody's asking for that, by the way. This is an infuriating tactic that's being used. And I'm going to go off on a tangent real quick on that. With Pam, she's gone out of her way to say this now multiple times. It's tens of thousands of hours of video surveillance footage that is now in evidence. And they've gone through all of it. And all that it is, apparently, is CSAM material, which is never going to be released. And she loves to emphasize that. We're never going to release the CSAM material, you disgusting dogs. That's not even close to what we're asking for. Nobody's asking for that. Nobody wants to see that. And if it wasn't evidence, I would say burn it. It's disgusting that it even exists. And I feel sad for anybody investigating this case that had to sit through and watch that disgusting nonsense. But to bring it up as if that's what people are asking for is outrageous. You know what we want. You know what we're asking for, Pam Bondi. You're an attorney. This was your job. But aside from the CSAM material, which nobody wants, if everything else is so non-incriminating, the list, everything else that exists, the files, they should have no problem releasing it. But what we're seeing here now is they are backpedaling in spectacular fashion now that FOIA requests are coming in for the Epstein files. This article goes on to say, Judicial Watch sued the Justice Department and FBI in April of 2025 after they failed to adequately respond to 3 separate FOIA requests for records filed in February of 2025 concerning Epstein, including a specific request for records depicting the identities of clients or associates. Epstein document requests were sent to the Justice Department's Office of Information Policy, the Criminal Division, and 2 separate requests were sent to the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI. The government has yet to turn over one document, nor has it disclosed when any documents might be released. And now this article, just coming out literally 8 minutes ago before I pushed record here, this is from Washington Examiner, but it's titled Flip-Flop. Justice search for Epstein files is still ongoing. What you can see is, because it's an ongoing investigation now, this is how they're going to kind of hinge on the excuse of denying FOIA requests currently. So despite indications from the Justice Department that its search for files related to Jeffrey Epstein is over, the FBI has told legal watchdog groups that it is still looking through its system. In the latest Trump administration confusion over the high-profile case, the Justice Department said in a court filing that the FBI search continues and that it does not know yet if more documents will be found or released. So how is the case closed? How are they putting out a statement like this morning and the case is closed, but they don't know if they're going to find more documents? If they don't know if they're going to find more documents, why is the case closed? The FBI's search efforts are ongoing, said a newly released joint status report to U.S. District Court, which is managing a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. And, I've done so much more research on this whole Epstein thing in general. There's so much evidence. There's so much evidence, and it's all of this started coming out during the age of the internet peaking. The fact that this happened in 2019, who do they think they're kidding? This article I pulled up, this is from December 14th, 2021, Ghislaine Maxwell's Little Black Book to remain a secret after judge warns against needless name dropping. This article literally goes on to state Ghislaine Maxwell's Little Black Book, containing the names and addresses of nearly 2,000 world leaders, celebrities, and alleged victims, will remain a secret. Listen, I don't need to know where the world leaders or celebrities live. I don't care. I don't obviously want to know the names of the victims. They deserve their privacy. They've suffered enough in this life. But the names of these world leaders and celebrities are on the list. I certainly want to know that, and I deserve to know that. Their names are already public. We don't know who's on the list, but if they're world leaders and celebrities, we know who they are by name as it is. Release it. This Little Black Book exists, and the courts have seen it. People have seen this. They're trying to tell us that it's inconsequential or that the list doesn't exist. People have seen it already. This wound up leading me to pull up other documents. Of course, moving on from Ghislaine's Little Black Book. This is a curious one because Pam Bondi was just asked about this actually, right? And it says, we brought a saw. FBI found diamonds, cash, passports, mind you. It's not Jeffrey Epstein passports, CDs, and hard drives after cracking open safe in 2019 raid on Epstein's Upper East Side townhouse. This is literally a photo of it. His safe pulled out here, manila envelope right there full of passports, plural. I can't emphasize that enough. And this was found on his 5th floor, apparently. All kinds of goodies. This stuff has not been destroyed either. I do not buy into the whole, well, the Democrats had control over it for 4 years. They destroyed all the important stuff. I actually don't buy into that. Court cases already happened where this evidence was logged and seen by several people. A lot of this evidence. It's not all destroyed. Certainly, it can't all be destroyed. I don't think any of it probably has been destroyed, to be frank. I didn't question it at the time that this came out when I originally saw this, but look at this. This is a redacted image, right? And this isn't an open room, and we know Epstein was a fiend, obviously. But what are the chances that they had to redact this to protect a victim, as opposed to this is a photo sitting on a table of Epstein hanging around somebody that they don't want us to know? At this point, we just start asking questions, right? That's what I'm doing here. I don't think this is a CSAM image being protected here. Let me put it to you that way. What is this photo that they're redacting and why? And there's another one right here. It looks like a helicopter of some sort, which is a weird photo. And obviously no need to redact that photo, right? But what would be next to this one that they would need to redact? Why is this redacted? These are questions that have to be asked. They didn't redact anything else, just this. And so this moment right here is one that I originally ignored slightly. I always laugh at the whole, well, we've been told that he's a secret CIA agent. It's one of those things I consider conspiracy theory candy, where it's like, of course, everybody's, Osama bin Laden, CIA agent. He might have been, actually. But you know what I'm getting at. It's like everybody that's controversial always winds up being a CIA agent, and I just don't know how true that is all the time. But this has really caught my attention now. This is how she responded to that part of the question.
To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that.
The funny thing is, with this DOJ, they seemed to know a lot more, especially Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, but especially Kash Patel, the way he would talk in podcasts last year. They seemed to know a lot more about this Epstein case before they got their positions. Isn't that funny? Kash was on all these podcasts and he was saying straight up, who has Epstein's black book? Right away, he just knew, oh, that's directly in the hands of the director of the FBI. Essentially, now you look back on that and you realize he was telling on himself. If you fast forward to current day, he has control over the black book. He did himself in with that one. But all the questions, he is so certain of himself a year ago. And now he's gotten in there and it's just like there's a cloud over Bongino's head, over Kash's head, over Pam's head. The way Pam Bondi talks even is startling, right? Like she's very unsure of herself. She doesn't speak very fluidly anymore. It's almost like the truth is just not on her side anymore. right? And so that's curious. She has no idea if he was an agent or not. But here's the thing. I've went and done some research on it. This was the Labor Secretary, Alex Acosta, who is also an attorney. And he's quoted as saying, I was told, this was back in July 10th, 2019. So this was actually before Epstein even died. I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. Isn't that interesting? Here's the passage. Epstein's name, I was told, had been raised by the Trump transition team when Alexander Acosta, the former U.S. attorney in Miami, who infamously cut Epstein a non-prosecution plea back in 2007, the first time Epstein got in trouble, was being interviewed for the job of labor secretary. The plea deal put a hard stop to a separate federal investigation of alleged crimes with minors and trafficking. Is the Epstein case going to cause a problem? Acosta had been asked. Acosta had explained breezily, apparently, that back in the day, he had just one meeting on the Epstein case. He'd cut the non-prosecution deal with one of Epstein's attorneys because he had been told to back off, that Epstein was above his pay grade. I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. Isn't that fascinating? I also found this. This was a great post by Data Republican on X. Breaking. Jeffrey Epstein once claimed to work for the CIA, and this was taken from a newspaper article from January 2nd, 2001. Dressed more suitably for a shopping trip on Fifth Avenue than an English pheasant drive in his LL Bean hunting boots and $1,000 leather parka, Jeffrey Epstein cut a curious figure alongside Ghislaine and Andrew at the Sandringham shooting party. It goes on to say here, he has a license to carry a concealed weapon and once claimed to have worked for the CIA, although he now denies it. And you know what else is funny? Upon doing more research on Ghislaine Maxwell, it turns out her father, Robert Maxwell, may have been part of Mossad, which is the intelligence agency for Israel. And there's a lot of controversy around her father's death. He apparently fell 30 feet to his death off of a yacht. And there's a lot of mystery around his death too, which is fascinating. So Ghislaine just happens to know two very wealthy, powerful people, one of them being her father, who have died mysteriously. And of course, this led me to this too. This is an ABC News article, and it says, records show Jeffrey Epstein's request for multiple passports travels to Africa and Middle East. Multiple passports is fascinating. That's why I pointed that out earlier in this video. Passports, plural. I don't know about you, but I've only ever had one passport when I needed it. I don't have multiple passports. That's kind of a crazy thing to have. And reportedly, some of these passports also had pseudonyms and aliases. That's also not normal. And there's a lot of other articles out there about how he apparently smuggled weapons, guns, into the UK for fun and did all kinds of other adventures overseas. But Pam Bondi doesn't know if he's an agent or not. She'll get back to us. And when she does, by the way, we'll have to just trust her. Isn't that nice? But I also want to play a part of the video on this article because I found it fascinating.
This morning, newly unsealed emails show Ghislaine Maxwell's harried reaction after Virginia Giuffre first alleged in 2014 that Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein forced her to have sex with Prince Andrew and other prominent men. Prince Andrew has denied Giuffre's allegations. The two settled a lawsuit in 2022 with no admission of wrongdoing.
Virginia Giuffre, that's a name I almost forgot. But there's a lot of coincidental timing around Virginia Giuffre. First of all, who was she? She was linked with Prince Andrew at one point in time in 2001. And of course, Prince Andrew denies ever meeting her. But despite denying ever meeting her, he did decide to pay her, I believe, $16.9 million. Also, this photo exists of Virginia Giuffre in 2001 with Ghislaine standing behind her looking very happy and Prince Andrew holding her in a way that looks like they know each other a little bit better than just, you know, having just met for a few seconds in a way where Prince Andrew would have no memory of who this girl is, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but you know, if I meet a girl for 10 seconds on the street, I don't walk up to her and put my hand around her waist there and point my hips towards her like that. Usually that's what you do with someone that you're very familiar with. Now, Virginia at this point in time would have been 19 years old or maybe even 20 years old, but it was taken in 2001. And again, Ghislaine's right there. And she looks very happy for a reason. You know, I think she probably had made a lot of money there, if you get my drift. The important thing to note with Virginia Giuffre is she was not a credible witness all around. She had a lot of issues. She was a proven liar multiple times. So we're just going to say it the way it is. But what is suspicious about all of this is the fact that he denies ever meeting her, despite this photo existing, where they look very comfortable with each other. He decided to pay her close to $17 million in a lawsuit and did not admit to any wrongdoing. And then on top of it, this whole debacle is happening literally 3 months after Virginia's death. I Googled it. And it immediately what popped up was, what was the cause of Virginia death? And as you can see right here, that was it. That was the cause. And apparently this was April 25th. So just over 2 months ago, she took her life. And I also just ultimately find everything around this suspicious, the timing of her death now compared to this whole nothing burger that the Department of Justice is serving us, combined also with the fact, let's also side tangent, the Diddy case. Isn't that fascinating? All of this is being like apparently wrapped up in a neat little bow, and it's like, oh, nothing to see here. Moving on. No, not going to happen. We're not moving on. And this is a big win in my opinion. But the whole thing with this is we have prominent MAGA voices, prominent supporters of President Trump like Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Steve Bannon, who are calling for Pam Bondi's release and are unrelenting in their pursuit for justice when it comes to the Epstein files. We will not be lied to. The days of the FBI and of the government telling us, well, we investigated it. There's nothing to see here. Trust us. Let's all move on as a nation. Those days have been over now for over 60 years. And those days ended, quite frankly, when JFK was killed. The American people have never healed from that, and we never will, and rightfully so, and probably for the best. There's no reason that we should ever be trusting the government when they look at us and say, just trust us, despite them previously, just a few months ago, saying there's tens of thousands of hours of footage, the cases are huge, there's a truckload of files being sent to my desk, I'm going to review it all, we're going to release everything we have that we can, with only the victims redacted, and now all of a sudden it's, you're not getting any of it, it doesn't matter, so we're not going to release it, and if you FOIA request it, we're going to deny you. That's not flying. And now they're backpedaling because now, apparently, according to them, it's all still under review. And I hope the large channels are unrelenting on this. We deserve to know. And America, founded upon Christian principles, should demand justice be brought to anybody that was harming children. That's my thoughts and opinions on that. What are yours? Comment down below and subscribe to American Advocates for more.